went in quest of news of his father, to Pylos the Sacrosanct, and to glorious Lacedaemon. Then in turn, Zeus, who gathers the clouds, made answer, "My child, what sort of word has escaped your teeth's barrier? For is not this your own intention, as you have counseled it, how Odysseus shall make his way back, and punish those others? Then bring Telemachus home skillfully, since you can do this, so that all without harm he can come back to his own country, while the suitors in their ship come back with nothing accomplished." He spoke, and then spoke directly to his beloved son Hermes. "Hermes, since for other things you are our messenger, announce to the nymph with the lovely hair our absolute purpose, the homecoming of enduring Odysseus, that he shall come back by the convoy neither of the gods nor mortal people, but he shall sail on a jointed raft, and, suffering hardships, on the 20th day make his landfall on fertile Scheria, at the country of the Phaeacians, who are near the gods of origin, and they will honor him in their hearts as a god, and send him back by ship to the beloved land of his fathers, bestowing bronze and gold in abundance upon him, and clothing more than Odysseus could ever have taken away from Troy, even if he had escaped unharmed with his fair share of the plunder. For so it is fated that he shall see his people and come back to his house, with the high roof and the land of his fathers." He spoke, nor disobeyed him the courier Argeiphontes, that's Hermes. Immediately he bound upon his feet the fair sandals, golden and immortal, that carried him over the water, as over the dry boundless earth abreast of the wind's blast. He caught up the staff with which he mazes the eyes of those mortals whose eyes he would maze, or wakes again the sleepers. Holding this in his hands, strong Argeiphontes winged his way onward. He stood on Pieria and launched himself from the bright air across the sea, and sped the wave tops like a sheer water, who, along the deadly deep ways of the barren salt sea, goes hunting fish, and disprays quick-beating wings in the salt brine. In such a likeness, Hermes rode over much tossing water, but after he had made his way to the fair-lying island, he stepped then out of the blue sea, and walked on over the dry land, till he came to the great cave, where the lovely-haired nymph was at home, and he found that she was inside. There was a great fire blazing on the hearth, and the smell of cedar split in billets, and sweetwood burning spread all over the island. She was singing inside the cave with a sweet voice, as she went up and down the loom, and wove with a golden shuttle. There was a growth of grove around the cavern flourishing. Alder was there, and the black poplar and fragrant cypress. And there were birds with spreading wings, who made their nests in it. Little owls and hawks, and birds of the sea with long beaks, who are like ravens. But all their work is on the seawater, and right about the hollow cavern extended a flourishing growth of vine that ripened with grape clusters. Next to it there were 4 fountains, and each of them ran shining water, each next to each, but turned to run in sundry directions. And round about there were meadows, goddess spoke, and she set before him a table, which she had filled with ambrosia and mixed red nectar for him. The courier, Hermes, Argifontes, ate and drank then, but when he had dined and satisfied his hunger with eating, then he began to speak, answering what she had asked him. You, a goddess, ask me, a god, why I came, and therefore I will tell you the whole truth of the tale. It is you who ask me. It was Zeus who told me to come here. I did not wish to. Who would willingly make the run across this endless salt water? And there is no city of men nearby, nor people who offer choice hecatombs to the gods and perform sacrifice. But there is no way for another god to elude the purpose of aegis-bearing Zeus, or bring it to nothing. He says you have with you the man who is wretched beyond all the other men of those who have fought around the city of Priam for 9 years, and in the 10th year they sacked the city and set sail for home. But on the voyage home, they offended Athena, who let loose an evil tempest and tall waves against them. Then all the rest of his excellent companions perished, but the wind and the current carried him here, and here they drove him. Now Zeus tells you to send him on his way with all speed. It is not appointed for him to die here, away from his people. It is still his fate that he shall see his people and come back to his house with the high roof to the land of his fathers. So he spoke, and Calypso, shining among divinities, shuddered and answered him in winged words, and addressed him. You are hard-hearted, you gods, and jealous beyond all creatures beside, when you are resentful toward the goddess for sleeping openly with such men as each has made her true husband. So, when Dawn of the Rosy Fingers chose out Orion, all you gods who live at your ease were full of resentment, until chaste Artemis of the Golden Throne in Ortygia came with a visitation of painless arrows and killed him. And so it was when the meter of the lovely hair, yielding to her desire, lay down with Iasion and loved him in a thrice-turned field. It was not long before this was made known to Zeus, who struck him down with a cast of the shining thunderbolt. So now, you gods, you resent it in me that I keep beside me a man, the one I saved when he clung astride of the keelboard all alone, since Zeus with a cast of the shining thunderbolt had shattered his fast ship midway on the wine-blue water. Then all the rest of his excellent companions perished, but the wind and current carried him here, and here they drove him, and I gave him my love and cherished him, and I had hopes also that I could make him immortal, and all his days be endless. But since there is no way for another god to elude the purpose of aegis-bearing Zeus, or bring it to nothing, let him go, let him go. If he himself is asking for this and desires it out on the barren sea, but I will not give him conveyance. For I have not any ships by me, nor any companions who can convey him back across the sea's wide ridges. But I will freely give him my counsel, and hold back nothing, so that all without harm he can come back to his own country. Then, in turn, But all the days he would sit upon the rocks at the seaside, breaking his heart in tears and lamentation and sorrow. As weeping tears he looked out over the barren water. She, bright among divinities, stood near and spoke to him. Poor man, no longer mourn here beside me, nor let your lifetime fade away, since now I will send you on with a good will. So come, cut long timbers with a bronze axe, and join them to make a wide raft, and to fashion decks that will be on the upper side, to carry you over the misty face of the water. Then I will stow aboard for bread and water and ruddy wine, giving strength-giving goods that will keep the hunger from you, and put clothing on you, and send a following stern wind after, so that all without harm you can come back to your own country, if only the gods consent. It is they who hold wide heaven, and they are more powerful than I to devise and accomplish. So she spoke to him, but long-suffering great Odysseus shuddered to hear, and spoke again in turn, and addressed her. Here is some other thing you devise, O goddess. It is not conveyance, when you tell me to cross the sea's great open space on a raft. That is dangerous and hard. Not even balanced ships rejoicing in a wind from Zeus cross over. I will not go aboard any raft without your goodwill. Nor, unless, goddess, you can bring yourself to swear me a great oath that this is not some painful trial you are planning against me. So he spoke, and Calypso, shining among divinities, smiled and stroked him with her hand, and spoke to him and named him. You are so naughty, and you will have your own way in all things. See how you have spoken to me and reasoned with me. Earth may be witness in this, and the wide heaven above us, and the dripping water of the Styx. Which oath is the biggest and most formidable oath among the blessed immortals, that this is no other painful trial I am planning against you, but I am thinking and planning for you, just as I would do it for my own self, if such needs as yours were to come upon me. For the mind in me is reasonable, and I have no spirit of iron inside my heart. Rather, it is compassionate. So she spoke, a shining goddess, and led the way swiftly, and the man followed behind her, walking in the god's footsteps. They made their way, the man and the god, to the hollow cavern, and he seated himself upon the chair from which Hermes lately had risen, while the nymphs set all manner of food before him to eat and to drink, such things as mortal people feed upon. She herself sat across the table from godlike Odysseus, and her serving maids set nectar and ambrosia before her. They put their hands to the good things that lay ready before them, but after they had taken their pleasure in eating and drinking, the talk was begun by the shining goddess Calypso. Son of Laertes and seed of Zeus, resourceful Odysseus, are you still all so eager to go on back to your own house and the land of your fathers? I wish you well, however you do it, but if you only knew in your heart how many hardships you are fated to undergo before getting back to your country, you would stay here with me Resourceful Odysseus spoke in turn and answered her. Goddess and queen, do not be angry with me. I myself know that all you say is true, and that circumspect Penelope can never match the impression you make for beauty and stature. She is mortal after all, and you are immortal and ageless. But even so, what I want, and all my days I pine for, is to go back to my house and to see my day of homecoming. And if some god batters me far out on the wine-blue's water, I will endure it, keeping a stubborn spirit inside me. For already I have suffered much and done much hard work on the waves and in the fighting, so let this adventure follow. So he spoke, and the sun went down, and the darkness came over. These two, withdrawn in the inner recess of the hollowed cavern, enjoyed themselves in love, and stayed all night by each other. But when the young dawn showed again with her rosy fingers, Odysseus wrapped himself in an outer cloak and a tunic, while she, the nymph, mantled herself in a gleaming white robe, fine woven and delightful. And around her waist she fastened a handsome belt of gold, and on her head was a wimple. She set about planning the journey for great-hearted Odysseus. She gave him a great axe that was fitted to his palms and headed with bronze, with a double edge each way, and fitted inside it a very beautiful handle of olive wood, well hafted. Then she gave him a well-finished adze and led the way onward to the far end of the island, where there were trees, tall grown, alder and black poplar and fir that towered to heaven. But all gone dry long ago and dead, so they would float lightly. But when she had shown him where all the trees grew, Calypso, shining among divinities, went back to her own house, while he turned to cutting his timbers and quickly had his work finished. He threw down 20 in all, and trimmed them well with his bronze axe, and planed them expertly, and trued them straight to a chalk line. Calypso, the shining goddess, at that time came back, bringing him an auger, and he bored through them all, and pinned them together with dowels, and then with cords he lashed his raft together. And, as great as is the bottom of a broad cargo-carrying ship, when a man well skilled in carpentry fashioned it, such was the size of the broad raft made for himself by Odysseus. Next, setting up the deck boards and fitting them to close uprights, he worked them on and closed in the ends with sweeping gunwales. Then he fashioned the mast with an upper deck fitted to it, and made, in addition, a steering oar by which to direct her, and fenced her in down the whole length with wattles of osier to keep the water out, and expended much timber upon this. Next, Calypso, the shining goddess, brought out the sailcloth to make the sails with, and he carefully worked these also, and attached the straps and halyards in sheets, all in a place aboard her, and then with levers worked her down to the bright salt water. It was the 4th day, and all his work was finished. Then on the 5th day, shining Calypso saw him off from the island, when she had bathed him and put fragrant clothing upon him. And the goddess put 2 skins aboard, one filled with sleep ever descend on his eyelids as he kept his eye on the Pleiades and late-sitting Boötes, and the bear to whom men give also the name the wagon, who turns about in a fixed place and looks at Orion. And she alone is never plunged into the water of the ocean. For so Calypso, bright among goddesses, had told him to make his way over the sea, keeping the bear on his left hand. 17 days he sailed, making his way over the water, and on the 18th day there showed the mountains of the Phaeacian land, where it stood out nearest to him, and it looked like a shield lying on the misty face of the water. Coming back from the Ethiopians, the strong earth-shakers saw him from far on the mountains of the Solomoi. If you remember, the gods made these plans while Poseidon was away feasting with the Ethiopians. He was visible sailing over the sea. Poseidon was the more angered with him, and shook his head, and spoke to his own spirit. For shame, surely the gods have rashly changed their intentions about Odysseus while I was away in the Ethiopians' land, and he nears the Phaeacian country, where it is appointed that he shall escape this great trial of misery that is now his. But I think I can still give him a good full portion of trouble. He spoke, and he pulled the clouds together in both hands, gripping the Titans, and staggered the sea, and let loose all the storm blasts of all the winds together, and huddled under the cloud scuds land alike and the great water. Night sprang from heaven, east wind and south wind clashed together, and the bitter-blown west wind and the north wind bore in the bright air rolled upon the heavy sea. The knees of Odysseus gave way for fear, and the heart inside him, and deeply troubled, he spoke to his own great-hearted spirit. Oh, me unhappy, what in the long outcome will befall me? I fear the goddess might have spoken the truth in all ways when she said that on the sea, and before I came to my country, I would go through hardships. Now all this is being accomplished. Such clouds are these, with which Zeus is cramming the wide sky and has staggered the sea, and storm blasts of wind from every direction are crowding in. My sheer destruction is certain. 3 times and 4 times happy are those Danaans who were died in the wide Troy land, bringing favor to the sons of Atreus. As I wish I too had died at that time and met my destiny on the day when the greatest number of Trojans threw their bronze-headed weapons upon me over the body of perished Achilles, and I would have had my rights and the Achaeans given me glory. Now it is by a dismal death that I must be taken. As he spoke, a great wave drove down from above him with a horrible rush, and spun the raft in a circle, and he was thrown clear far from the raft, and let the steering oar slip from his hands. A terrible gust of storm winds whirling together and blowing snapped the mast tree off in the middle, and the sail and the upper deck were thrown far and fell in the water. He himself was ducked for a long time, nor was he able to come up quickly from under the great rush of water, for the clothing which divine Calypso had given him weighted him down. At last he got to the surface and spat the bitter salt sea water that drained from his head, which was filled with it. But he did not forget about his raft, for all his trouble, but turned and swam back through the waters and laid hold of it, and huddled down in the middle of it, avoiding death's end. It is immortal, and fasten it under your chest, and there is no need for you to die, nor to suffer. But when both your hands you have taken hold of the man, but when with both your hands you have taken hold of the mainland, untie the veil and throw it out in the wine-blue water far from the sea, and turn your face away as you do so. So spoke the goddess, and handed him the veil. Then herself, in the likeness of a gannet, slipped back into the heaving sea, and the dark and tossing water closed above her. Now, long-suffering great Odysseus pondered 2 courses, and troubled he spoke then to his own great-hearted spirit. Ah me, which of the immortals is weaving deception against me, and tells me to put off from the raft? But no, I will not do it yet, since I have seen with my own eyes that the shore, where she said I should escape, is still far from me. But here's what I will do, and this seems to me the best way. As long as the timbers hold together and the construction remains, I will stay with it and endure through suffering hardships. But once the heaving sea has shaken my raft to pieces, then I will swim. There is nothing better that I could think of. Now, as he was pondering these ways in his heart and spirit, Poseidon, shaker of the earth, drove on a great wave that was terrible and rough, and it curled over and broke down upon him. And as when the wind blows hard on a dry pile of chaff, and scatters it abroad in every direction, so the raft's long timbers were scattered. But now Odysseus sat astride one beam, like a man riding on horseback. And stripped off the clothing which the divine Calypso had given him, and rapidly tied the veil of Ino around his chest. Then he threw himself head first in the water, and with his arms spread, stroked as hard as he could. The strong earth-shaker saw him swimming, and shook his head, and spoke to his own spirit. There now, drift on the open sea, suffering much trouble, until you come among certain people who are the gods' fosterlings. Even so, I hope you will not complain that I stinted your hardships. So he spoke, and laid the lash on his fair-maned horses, and made his way to Aigai, where he has his fabulous palace. But now Athena, daughter of Zeus, planning what was to follow, she fastened down the courses of all the rest of the storm winds, and told them all to go to sleep now. great sea covered over him, and Odysseus would have perished, wretched, beyond his destiny, had not the grey-eyed Athena goddess given him forethought. He got clear of the surf, where it sucks against the land, and swam along, looking always towards the shore, in hope of finding beaches that slanted against the waves, or harbors for shelter from the sea. But when he came swimming along to the mouth of a sweet running river, this at last seemed to him the best place, being bare of rocks, and there was even a shelter from the wind there. He saw where the river came out, and prayed to him in his spirit, "Hear me, my lord, whoever you are. I come in great need to you, a fugitive from the sea and the curse of Poseidon. Even for immortal gods, that man has a claim on their mercy who comes to them as a wandering man, in the way that I now come to you, come to your current and to your knees after much suffering." "Pity me, then, my lord. I call myself your suppliant." He spoke, and the river stayed his current, stopping the waves breaking, and all made for He spoke, and the river stayed his current, stopping the waves breaking, and made all quiet in front of him, and let him get safely into the outlet of the river. Now he flexed both knees and his ponderous hands. His very heart was sick with salt water, and all his flesh was swollen, and the sea water crusted stiffly in his mouth and nostrils. And with a terrible weariness fallen upon him, he lay unable to breathe or speak in his weakness. But when he got his breath back, and the spirit regathered into his heart, he at last unbound the veil of the goddess from him, and let it go to drift in the seaward course of the river. And the great wave carried it out into the current, and presently Ino took it back into her hands. Odysseus staggered from the river, and lay down again in the rushes, and kissed the grain-giving soil. Then, deeply troubled, he spoke to his own great-hearted spirit. "What will happen now, and what in the long outcome will befall me? For if I wait out the uncomfortable night by the river, I fear that the female dew and the evil frost together will be too much for my damaged strength. I am so exhausted, and in the morning a chilly wind will blow from the river. But if I go up the slope and into the shadowy forest, and lie down to sleep among the dense bushes, even if the chill and weariness let me be, and a sweet sleep comes upon me, I fear I may become spoil and prey to the wild animals." In the division of his heart, this last way seemed best, and he went to look for the wood, and found it close to the water in a conspicuous place, and stopped under two bushes that grew from the same place, one of the shrub, and one of wild olive, and neither the force of wet-blowing winds could penetrate these, nor could the shining sun ever strike through with his rays, nor yet could the rain pass all the way through them, so close together they were grown, interlacing one another. And under these now Odysseus entered, and with his own hands heaped him a bed to sleep on, making it wide, since there was a great store of fallen leaves there, enough for 2 men to take cover in, or even 3 men in the winter season, even in the very worst kind of weather. Seeing this, long-suffering great Odysseus was happy, and lay down in the middle, and made a pile of leaves over him, as when a man buries a burning log in a black ash heap in a remote place in the country, where none live near his neighbors, and saves the seed of fire, having no other place to get a light from. So Odysseus buried him himself in the leaves, and Athena shed a sleep on his eyes, so as most quickly to quit him by veiling his eyes from the exhaustion of his hard labors. And that brings us to the conclusion of Book 5. I should be back later this same week with Book 6. So if you enjoyed 5 or any of the previous